Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, Josh Mansfield, on this Tuesday, May 21st. And we got a great show for you today. We're going to recap the OTB Open, where some milestones set. Calvin Heimburg wins his first back-to-back Elite Series of his career in consecutive starts. And Ella Hansen wins her first DGPT event of her career. A lot to get to there. We're also going to get a chance to talk to the guys who brought us the New York City disc golf course that's already in the ground as having its grand opening in a couple of weeks. So excited to talk with those two, Alex Hoyle and Alex Bender. And we will get to them in a little bit. But first, OTB Open talk. Josh, first of all, let's just, Dallas Stars are cooking, right?
Dallas Stars are cooking. We won. We beat the Avalanche in 6. I think that the odds I saw this morning said the Edmonton Oilers are favored in the series, but they just had to go to a Game 7 with Vancouver, and Dallas is just playing great. They're playing great hockey right now, so I'm very enthusiastic. Yes,
Nick's life, sad life, injured life.
Jeez.
I broke my own hand in solidarity with Jalen Brunson. Let's talk OTB. I don't know where. I'll let you decide where you want to start, because rapid reacts, I was solo dolo. You weren't feeling very well, and I understand why, because you just failed to pick the winners on your podium whatsoever, even though it was very clear that they were going to play well. And I go 2 for 2 with my picks with Calvin and Ella. And you, I guess you get the consolation prize of putting Gavin Rathbun on your podium, but otherwise, Josh, take this L.
It is an L. I'm very happy with my consolation prize. Like, that's a consolation prize. Like a trophy I might actually keep. I'm really pleased with the Gavin Rathbun pick. Otherwise, though, yeah, hard L. And the Calvin pick should have just been obvious. Over Gannon.
Low ceiling golf course.
Low ceiling golf course.
What do you need?
I know. Looking back, like, he won, and I was like, of course Calvin won. Of course he did. Why would he have not won this tournament? Yeah. So that one was obvious. Listen, we go into the final round, and you have Ellen and Holland tied. Ella and Holland tied.
Ellen and Holla.
Ellen and Holla.
That's what I'm gonna start calling them.
I would buy a disc that says Ellen and Holla on it. So they go in tied, and I'm like, all right, let's see which of these two are gonna fall apart. And it was mine. It was my horse, Charlie, and I was very devastated about it. But that final, I think I want to start an FPO.
Okay.
Because while the like Ella's win. Eventually is, I mean, and ultimately, that's probably the better word, ultimately is not the most compelling round of disc golf, to watch, because Ella kind of runs away with it. I think that this marks a really important moment in FPO, because, again, this is another case where most of the Europeans are not present, but you have two players who I think are defined largely by the community in a lot of the same ways. And it helps that they're best friends as well, right? Like their relationship contributes to the narratives around them that make them out to be very similar. They both can throw just a mile. They come from outside sports that brought them in with a level of athleticism and understanding of sports in general. Holland from volleyball, Ella came from ultimate. Both kind of coming over during COVID. They haven't been playing very long. We see them up at the top often, but they have both choked away leads in previous tournaments. And so for them to be best friends here on the final round lead card, Ella just having absolute nerve, because, and that's the thing, everyone's, there are some people I saw who were like, well, this course is suited for Ella. It makes sense. Ella has lost on courses that are suited for Ella before. Ella has choked on courses
before. I mean, every single time.
Right. And that's, I think that Holland, this course is equally suited to Holland as it is to Ella. And so given that that's the case, this to me is just such an important turning point in Ella's career. And it gives me just huge question marks about Holland. And really, and I know you have throw pink, but I've got real concerns about Holland now and her mental game. And Ella's is one that now gives me a little bit of hope and excitement for her.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I think who's been the better player, though, this season? I don't think it's a question, right? Holland, the reason Holland is getting scrutiny is because she's been putting herself in a position to win and then it failed to do so.
You're right.
And, let's not avoid the topic entirely. Kristen's not here. Mm-hmm. The other top Europeans aren't here. The best players of the season were not here.
Yep.
Right? Evelina, Kristen, you even could include Hedna if you want to, right? So like a bunch of heavy hitters not here. And that doesn't really diminish for me Ella's performance, especially because she averaged over 1,000 on the weekend.
Yep.
I think there's a very good chance she wins this tournament with those players in the field. But I do think it's worth pointing out, and I said this in the reacts, I think it's a different level of pressure for Ella to have to outplay Holland than it is to have to outplay Kristen in the final round.
Oh, that's a fair...
It's a psychological thing.
Yeah.
Right? There's a level of comfort with facing off against Holland that I don't think would be there if it was Kristen, especially given the ghosts of Waco.
Sure.
But, whether this will be a turning point for Ella or not is kind of the question in my mind. Like, does this... Yeah. We always talk about this, right? Oh, is this going to unlock the floodgates? Well, rarely it does. Rarely, right? I mean, I guess for AB, we could say
it did.
That when he finally got the one, when it rained, it poured.
Yeah.
We'll talk about AB because slump. I don't want to hear anybody tell me he's not in a slump. He's now very clearly in a slump.
You're right.
Okay. To stay on Ella and Holland. Look, here is some encouraging stuff. All right. Ella's getting better. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that I want to point out. One notable stat from her this weekend, the putting was not statistically amazing, but watching her play, she hit clutch putts and wasn't doinking 15 footers. And that's been a problem for her when she's been playing well. That's kind of held her back. And I didn't feel like that happened this weekend. But I think the more important thing, on a course where OB is everywhere, she only went out of bounds once. That's a big part of her success. I mean, it was a great tee to green performance in general, plus the fact that she wasn't going OB. So she had a huge lead in that department, and it's why she won by a big margin. I looked at, because I in my mind, I was like, Ella has not historically been a super clean player when it comes to out of bounds. Mm-hmm. So I checked last year. She was 41st on tour in 2023 at 11.8% OB rate. Now, that's a little misleading. There were some people up at the top who were super conservative players who only played a few tour events and are not really touring pros. So it's not, let's call it 30th.
But or even 25th. But if you count, if you go touring pros, being 25th in any stat of touring pros and FPO, it's
not great. You're average at best.
Oh yeah, if that.
Right. So this year, her OB rate is 8.9%, and she's an 8th, with a couple of those more conservative players in front of her.
That's a significant improvement.
Guess who's number one? Trivia question of the week.
Number one.
Least OB per 18 holes.
Let's go Silva Sarnen.
Kristen.
It is Kristen. Okay. I overthought
it. That?
I overthought it. I was like, it's got to be Kristen, right? And I was like, no, that's too easy of a trivia
who's
question.
Number two? Also maybe a little surprising. I don't know. Maybe not. Hannah Blomroos.
That is a little more surprising to me.
But, I mean, think about how well she's been throwing it this year. I mean, Hannah's story is all about the putting.
Yeah.
And Hannah's the new Evelina.
Yep.
Monster
performance,
tee to green, and cannot hit putts.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought that was a very interesting note about Ella. It's not it would be too easy to just write this off as whatever. There was nobody here. The Europeans weren't. No. She won by the biggest margin for somebody's first Elite Series win since Kona Panis This was a big beatdown win against all of the best American players.
Yep.
7-stroke victory.
Speaking of best FPO players, Paige Pierce, top 5.
Hey, how about that?
Had to get back out to California. That's all we needed.
The heavy hitters they're coming, Josh. McBeth had a very strange, horrible putting performance in round 2, but looked great in round 1.
Mm-hmm.
Hot round. He's coming. Eagle, 13th. He's starting to come. He's starting to look like himself again.
Did you see? He said, I saw a post. I think it was on his Instagram. He said that he is really encouraged by the development of his forehand. That he is throwing 60% power and breaking 400 feet again.
That's illegal. Put him in jail. Can you imagine that?
No, Charlie.
I'll just get a little casual arm swing here. Just yam at 400.
That have you see those memes that are like, pick which pill you want, and one of them is like, one of them is 60% power to throw a 400-foot forehand. Like it's one of those unreal superpowers that just people shouldn't be able to do.
Oh man! All right, we got to talk about Holland, Josh.
Oh.
She stunk it up out there in the final round, 3 over. One of the worst rounds of anybody in the top 25. When coming into a major or elite series final round, leading or tied for the lead, Holland Handley shoots 17 ratings points worse during final rounds than in the other rounds of that tournament. She is averaging 989 in early rounds, 972 in final rounds when she's leading or tied for the lead. And, clearly this is something she's going to have to reckon with. What is going on with her mentally when she's in these spots? Because how there's no other way to explain Holland going from shooting an 11 under in round 2 to shooting a 3 over in round 3. That is a 14-shot swing.
Mm-hmm.
That is just unacceptable. And it should be unacceptable to her. And she should be thinking about what steps she needs to take in order to fix this, because it's literally the one thing holding her back from being a week in, week out champion and someone who's challenging Kristen for, number 1 on the year.
I think the most notable stat, and this is something that is a clear highlight. Well, there's 3 things to me that stick out when I look at these 2 rounds, from the 1026 rated round 2 to the 910 rated round 3. Number 1 is that her OB rate, she went from 0 OBs to going OB 7 times on that final round.
That's half the strokes.
Right.
Between the 14.
That definitely, and there was comments about it on the broadcast, is that like it was clear that her release timing was very off. And so it's not even like when you think about her mental game, it is one that is like physiological as well. And that it is like, she cannot get her body, her arm, to swing the disc properly, and so she just has no control over where it goes.
Yep.
That's problem number 1. Number 2 is that her stats, I think the most notable difference after OB strokes is circle 1 in regulation, where she goes from 12 out of 18, a 67%, on round 2 to 6 out of 18 in round 3. So half. She hits circle 1 in regulation half as often in round 3 as opposed to round 2. The problem there is that Holland, and I don't know, I'd have to go look at season stats, which are still not available on PDGA Live, and so I can't do that. But my sentiment, and anecdotally, in looking at this tournament, Holland is not the best circle 2 putter on tour. And this weekend, round 2, she went 0 from 5 from circle 2. round 3, she still only went 1 for 9. But the issue is that if she is able to make half of her C2 putts, or 40% or 30% of her C2 putts, and give back some of those strokes, I think that could create a kind of difference and confidence difference. Do you have season stats on Holland for Circle 2 putting?
Yeah, I'll pull it up right now.
Would you want to do that for me? Because, and this is something we've talked about, Holland, we like, if her Circle 2 putting was better, and her comfort range of where she felt like she had a good chance of making the putt was extended from, wherever it is now out to, let's say, 45 feet. Go ahead.
Holland is a 20% Circle 2 putter this season. That is 2, 4, 6, 8, 9th on tour.
So not bad.
That's really good. I think 20 is basically
that's the level.
I'm a beast level in FPO. The leader right now is Owen Scoggins at 26.9%.
Okay, so not far off Owen then.
No, I mean she's an elite Circle 2 putter.
Okay,
I mean you could say she's not the best. That's
sure,
true,
but she is elite.
You know who's number 2 right now in Circle 2 putting this season? Trivia question of the day, number 2.
Give me. Is it Silva Saarinen?
Silva is 10th at 19.3%. Kristen is in 6th. Annika Sten is in 3rd. In 2nd, Paige Pierce.
Wow.
How about that? If Paige starts to clean up the drives, you could have
given me 10 guesses, and I would not have.
And you would never have guessed that, right?
No. Because I think we really haven't seen a lot of Paige on coverage. And the one time we did was at chess.com, and her Circle 2
putting has been elite.
Interesting.
She's top 10 in Circle 1 and number 2 in Circle 2.
Wow.
It's a good sign for where she could go,
That is a really good sign.
She's got to clean up the OB. I mean,
her throws, her timing, her timing
OB.
is just off. It's clear that
but
her
it's
timing.
getting there. It's getting there. I thought it looked a lot better this weekend.
It did. Yep. Awesome. So this weekend, Holland couldn't make a Circle 2 putt. So this is not, I guess, descriptive of the season. I guess she's typically a very good Circle 2 putter. This weekend, she couldn't make a Circle 2 putt, whether you contribute that to pressure or whatever. The issue then is that the landing zone where she needs to hit those upshots has shrunk significantly. If her confidence goes away in the Circle 2 putt, she's got to push upshots and drives significantly harder, and that's going to increase her OB rate already when she's not comfortable. So whether this might be a chicken and the egg scenario, like, does her poor driving contribute to her not making as many Circle 2 putts? Does her lack of Circle 2 putts make her want to push the drive, which makes her go OB more often? I'm not sure, but it's clear there that the mental game just is not right with Holland in final rounds.
And look, it's something that can be worked on. It is. I think she's going to overcome it, and when she does, she's going to start winning. All right. Other quick notes on FPO just before we move on. Paige Pierce top 5 as mentioned. Madison Walker gets a top 10 finish. Cool to see. But overall, this was Ella's weekend, and that was really the story of this FPO OTB Open. Let's talk MPO. Calvin did a bunch of things. Not only does it become the 3rd straight year in which he's won multiple DGPT events, he's now tied with Eagle for 6th place for the most Elite Series wins all time. It's his 11th Elite Series win in 111 starts. And he's just, it's his first back-to-back win ever, as I mentioned off the top. So it's interesting, Josh. I think I asked on the Reacts, who's player of the year right now? And I think the consensus was that it's still AB, but I think there was a little bit of a false notion that everything had changed to begin this season because Calvin was hurt, and it clearly affected his performance. And he actually still played pretty well. And now that he's throwing his forehand again, he's 2-0.
Yeah.
And I just like, if I had to put money down right now, I would probably say Calvin is like minus 200 to win Player of the Year again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
The only thing holding Calvin back from being very clearly the greatest player of this generation is a major. He's got to win a major. There's no question. It will be forever hanging over him until he does it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is the year, but I mean, the guy is unbelievable. He was just an absolute killer out there this weekend. And as Gavin Rathbun looked nervous, Calvin did not.
And I love seeing Calvin when Zach Melton's on his bag. Zach said on the Jomez, I watched the Jomez for Saturday's round, and Zach Melton was doing commentary for Jomez, and on the broadcast he said that Calvin says that he's an old man, and so he doesn't let him carry his bag. He only just lets him walk with him. And so, but I mean, it's clear when Calvin gets in that flow state, man, he is just untouchable. And that's what we saw. He, overcomes coming back from, he's only back one stroke. And it was clear that like Gavin was going to have to shoot lights out if he wanted to hold on to a lead with Calvin right there behind him. Calvin only has one bogey. He has 11 birdies on the round. And I mean, the part that I think he was 15 of 18 in Circle 2 in regulation, which means he's always had a look, almost always. And, that is contrasted with Gavin, who was, 12 out of 18. And those couple of holes made the difference. It's, lost by 3 strokes or 2 strokes, but was 3 strokes behind Calvin. And it was just a clinical performance from Calvin this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, it just like had that inevitable feeling.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 6th time that he's won a DGPT event when trailing going into the final round. That's 4th all time in comeback wins for Elite Series in MPO history.
I didn't realize that many of his wins have been from behind.
More than half. Obviously, usually he's trailing by like what, a stroke?
A stroke, right. I'd be curious to know what his stats are from like going into a final round leading versus converting that into win percentage, as opposed to his peers, right?
Because it definitely sticks in the mind these times when he's been in the lead or had a share of the lead and played poorly in the final round.
Right.
It definitely sticks in the mind. Whether that's a reality that he plays worse in those spots we would need to actually have the data in front of us.
Yeah. Not to take the spotlight away too much from from Calvin, but Gavin was really impressive this weekend, and he has what is now becoming very quickly a really impressive season. It's his 4th top 10 of the 2024 season. That already eclipses his career best, which was 3 in 2021. That was a season he was looking real good before he hurt his shoulder. And so, I mean, not only do you have Pete Gavin back, but like he has exceeded what Pete Gavin did. And this is, setting new heights. My question, Charlie, and this is my question for you. Where do you put Gavin in like a power ranking, but not just like in the moment, but also like what is his potential?
Like he compared to the rest of the MPO field?
Yeah, and especially like some of those other young guys, right? Because you have those that are, I think, very clearly a top elite young player. Gannon, AB, Nicholas, Kyle Klein, right? And then how do you compare? Like, I guess Isaac Robinson last season deserves a nod there, but how do you compare him with guys like Ezra Robinson, with Cole Redolin, Aaron Gossage, even like Adam Hammis, right? Like how where does he fit into that picture?
I mean, look, at some point we got to recognize that if you take away the injury period, both from him getting hurt to then like having to relearn how to play, trusting arm and shoulder again. If you take that out, you've got a guy who is a top 10 lock.
Yeah.
Like, he had 3 top 10 finishes back in 2021. He already has 4 top 10 finishes this season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, lock's probably a little strong, but like, he is clearly outplaying pretty much all the guys you just mentioned, right?
The only one ahead of him in the standings right now is Ezra Robinson of that second group.
Sure.
But he is also ahead of Kyle Klein and Isaac Robinson both, and Aaron Goss. Oh, Aaron Goss I put in the second group. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, he's an elite putter. He has the second lowest OB rate on tour behind Mason Ford. You know, he's not going to blow you away with the other numbers, but he avoids the big numbers and is able to attack for his birdies. And he's a good circle 2 putter. Look, I don't know if I necessarily see like a monster high ceiling on his game.
Okay.
But I do think he's somebody who could be in this, you know, finish in the top 10 in the Pro Tour standings for the next 5 years. Like, why not?
Why not?
I'm not sure that I mean, he clearly showed you this weekend that he could win an Elite Series on the right weekend. He had his chances.
He did.
He got nervous. You could see it. Missed some bunny putts. Got a little nervous on the tee shots late in the back 9. And, you know, hard to knock the guy for losing to Calvin.
Right. Well, and this does make back-to-back podium weekends for Gavin Rathbun as well.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome.
Yeah, and between DDO, OTB, like, he's got to be really excited going into Portland.
Sure,
got to be really excited.
He's hot right now.
He is hot,
and this is the golf we saw him playing before he got hurt. Mm-hmm. So you know, it was a question mark of whether he was ever going to refine the form, but I think it clearly has. And so let's find out what he's got. Let's find out what he's got. But back-to-back podiums that's not an easy thing to do.
Nope, that's legit.
Gannon Burr missed the top 10 for the first time since the 2023 USDGC. Meanwhile, I mentioned it, Anthony Barela. We got to call it a slump at this point, as he has now finished worse in 4 straight tournaments. He was 18th this weekend.
Okay, let me ask you one quick question.
Sure.
So Anthony Barela shoots 1 stroke better. Gets 18 down instead of 17 down. That jumps him into a 7-way tie for 13th. 6-way tie for 13th instead of 18th.
Yep.
Does that change it at all for you?
Slump. Still slump.
Still slump. Okay.
I mean, relative to the beginning of his season, he is slumping.
Yeah.
I said it would happen. It's here. Let's see how he responds. He could go shred at Portland.
He could shred at Portland.
I mean, he's gonna get back up to the top of the leaderboard. I have no doubt. But this is the thing that I wanted to see. How does he play with some adversity? This is some adversity.
Yeah.
I get your point, right? He's only a couple strokes away from being in the top 10.
Right.
But on the other hand, he shot 17 under and Calvin shot 27 under.
Oh, no, I hear you. It wasn't anywhere close. Real quick, it wasn't his putting that was a problem. He went 13 for 15 in C1X putting this weekend. I think the problem there when I look at that stat is that he had to putt that often. I mean, most of these other guys are not putting 15 times from C1X. Like, they're
park jobs,
more parks. Yes, yeah. On the par 4s and 5s, like you and some of the 3s, like you probably should be under the basket a little bit more for birdie on a couple of those holes. So, anyway.
Also, was that just one round though? I feel like
yes.
that number seems a little low.
Yes, yeah. That was his round 3.
Got it.
Yeah. That was his other rounds. His other rounds were quite normal. 8 out of 10 and 5 out of 7. So pretty like normal relative to. But like this is what's interesting. In round 2, his circle 1 in regulation was 9 out of 18, and he went 5 for 7. In round 3, his circle 1 in regulation was 10 out of 18, but he went 13 for 15. So he just, it was just very different. Didn't park it nearly as often.
Yeah, he's also, his circle 1 putting has been a little off.
Yeah,
he was 81% this weekend. It's not horrible, but it's way down from where he was at the beginning of the season when he was winning all those tournaments.
I mean, fair, but man, if your slump is an 80% C1X putting and
guy's
it's
a great
AB,
player.
That's great.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
All right. A couple other quick things before we get to this interview with Alex Hoyle and Alex Bender from the New York City Disc Golf Association, who have been the ones driving the implementation of this course. Of course, Paul McBeth Foundation helping out to get that put into the ground and do a lot of the funding for the course. Josh, I know you had a little broadcast note that you wanted to get out there about DGN coverage.
Yeah, I do, because I was really excited for this tournament. I think every year after year, it's continued to improve. Spectators weren't bad.
A real highlight of the weekend.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, so I think that they did a good job in achieving kind of the atmosphere that they wanted to. I think the spectator numbers were good. And the thing about it is, I see snippets, I see things about this course that I really, really like, and I think are really interesting. And there are technicalities to some shots that are very clearly there. But I think I've realized what my biggest gripe with golf course disc golf is, because I've had the opportunity to play more golf course disc golf personally in the past 6 months. In Idaho, a lot of municipal golf courses will get turned. There's several around me that get turned into disc golf courses in the winter. And so, because we don't really want to play in the mountains in the winter. So instead, we just use municipal golf courses. And it's really quite engaging to play on. I still prefer woods, but it's interesting. And there's more to it than I think I was giving it credit for. Which means to me that the problem now is the way that we are covering tournaments at disc golf courses. When you have the woods, I think there's a very clear and easy context to understand the quality of somebody's shot. I think of, and I can't even tell you what hole it is, but at GMC, Chris Dickerson at Brewster Ridge threw on the par 4, just that absolutely crazy shot. Or Haley King did it too. But Haley King's was this crazy on the par 4, just incredible drive that put her basically under the basket for eagle. And the woods and the way that the woods shape give you framework for understanding how good a shot is, the way that it has to move, the difficulty, where it needs to land, how far it's going. Like, all of those things exist in the woods naturally, thanks to the framework of the scenery around it. So many times this weekend, a shot would be thrown, and I couldn't tell you how far it went, how close it was to an ideal landing zone, what their next shot was going to look like. Like, it just was a shot that in my mind had zero context about the impact on the actual golf of that hole. And so the par 3s, sure, like, there's the basket. How close did it get to the basket? That's easy to understand. But par 4s and 5s, where the golf really should shine and where, like, the actual strategy of this game should be excelling and attracting people to the sport, are just not covered well enough to actually make it intriguing. And I found myself getting bored on the holes that I was most excited for because I just couldn't understand how good the shots were. This can be fixed in my mind in one of two ways. Either the broadcast and the production team needs to create graphics and start, like, putting up the hole map and showing me where, like, the birdie zone that they've done before. I think Jomez is the one that was doing that. I don't know if it was on. I think they've done it on DGN as well, where they show a map and the course map and they show where the disc is and they show where they need to be and what the shot. And heck, I want the commentators to have a marker to draw on the screen. Like, I don't know where we're at in that technology and how much that is, right? But I want a course map where they can draw a line and say, look, because their disc is here, they're going to have to throw an Annie as opposed to a hyzer approach. The second thing is whoever the color commentator is, and this weekend I will pick on Philo and Sarah, they need to go out and walk the course, and they need to identify where landing zones are, and they need to say things like, if they are right of this tree, they are not going to have an approach to the basket. Like, they have to be able to clearly articulate the ins and outs of this course, and not just the ideal spots, but where players like may land and where mistakes may be. And the color commentators need to do more work in order to give real context so that we understand the golf that's being played, especially on these golf courses.
Yeah, I mean, this is the big downside of these open courses, especially when they're semi-open, I guess I would say, where it's like, it's not just like you can land anywhere in a 100-foot radius and you're going to have a clean shot to the pin. Like, it depends where you land, and it's not clearly defined by a tree-lined fairway. We have to be able to give some kind of indication as to where they are, and it's a hard thing to do because even if you've walked the course, it can be hard to know if somebody lands in a weird spot, like what will they have? And I think that's a spot where, like, using the on-course reporter more to get that insight into like what are they looking at is kind of is the ideal thing to do. And yeah, but I mean, a lot of the times I do feel like we just watch people throw shots and then we just don't have any context as to what's next. And like, it's a hard problem to solve because we don't have the millions of dollars of tech that the PGA Tour has. But
and I get that.
I do think that, working to make it more accessible for viewers is like really important.
If there was a broadcast that always had the course maps up on the right side of the screen and then the broadcast on the left, and broadcasters could even without drawing on it, right? But like, especially if they could like draw on it, I would watch that broadcast every single time over what we watch right now. That context is just so valuable.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will talk with Alex Hoyle and Alex Bender from New York City Disc Golf Association. And then we got a little inside the circle for you at the end of the show. So stay with us. It's The Upshot.
Pound's the best of the best. It's the quality, the craftsmanship, the vision for what a bag could be. Let's start from the beginning. I didn't choose Pound, I chose Levi. I trusted Levi to make the best bag possible.
He's always trying to innovate. He wants it to be perfect. And I think he's the kind of guy that nothing's ever perfect.
I trust the product. I trust the people behind the product.
At this point, I don't think anyone's disputing that it's the best made bag.
The Upshot is presented by Sunset Lake CBD, a farm that originally started as a dairy farm producing milk and cream for Ben & Jerry's ice cream, but they've since diversified and started growing hemp for CBD. You got to check their products out. This is the highest quality CBD, super nice packaging, obviously really nice quality products themselves. I've been using the like muscle rub when I have sore muscles. Feels fantastic, smells great. Really, really nice to be able to use that instead of, taking Tylenol or something like that. And you can save on Sunset Lake CBD products right now. You just got to go to sunsetlakecbd.com, use coupon code UPSHOT, and you will save 20% off your entire order. Joining us now on The Upshot are the co-founders of the New York City Disc Golf Association, Alex Hoyle and Alex Bender. We had the Seans on last week. Now we bring in the Alexes. Guys, welcome to the program.
Great to be here. Thanks so much, Charlie and Josh.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, so many questions to get to. I guess I'd love to hear a little bit first about the genesis of the New York City Disc Golf Association. It is not a city that really has much connection to disc golf yet. Obviously, that is changing. But how did you guys decide to get this started and, timeline on events?
Yeah, it was really me and Bender were really approaching the same issue from two ends of the spectrum. And anyone who moves to New York City quickly realizes that it's going to be a big hassle to try to continue to play disc golf on a regular basis. And so I moved here in 2019, and that was basically my experience, which everyone kind of feels the same about. So I set
Where'd
out.
you come from?
Oh, I came from Arkansas originally. Born and raised there. Moved to DC for grad school, and then up to New York City. So,
Got it.
yeah, and just kind of decided I wanted to try to start a club and try to build that community because it was pretty lacking here in the city. And that started in July or August of 2022. I called it Double Bogey Disc Golf at the time, just trying to be a little tongue-in-cheek. And of course, we've now evolved to New York City Disc Golf Association, a little more official sounding. But yeah, our first meetup was just kind of a putting meetup at Prospect Park, and we had 3 people show up. It was very small, and it just kind of started snowballing from there. Week after week, more people found the events posted online. They saw us playing in the park, old disc golfers who were like, holy cow, there are people here throwing Frisbees. I want to be a part of this. And before we knew it, we had a pretty solid group of people who were coming out on a weekly basis to our meetups at Prospect Park. And yeah, it was kind of at that point where I was like, I really want to try to provide a real disc golf experience for people in New York City, even though we don't have a course. So we've actually carved out 18 holes at Prospect Park. We've hosted 2 tournaments there. It's a really great park to try to play disc golf at in the winter time, because in the summer there's just too much foot traffic, which is really a challenge trying to play disc golf anywhere in the city, is finding space to do it. And from there, I think it was February or March 2023, we were having one of our weekly meetups, and Bender was on a bike ride and saw us playing and hopped off his bike and immediately joined us. And as me and Bender got to talking, we realized that we shared the same vision on how we wanted disc golf to grow in New York City. And that's when we decided we wanted to partner. I had been really approaching it kind of a heads down, build the club perspective, and here's where Bender can jump in. He had really been approaching it from a external networking with the Paul McBeth Foundation, with the Parks Department, really building those relationships. So as we came together, the 2 things that we were working on just really gelled to try to continue the momentum forward.
Yeah, like around the same time that Hoyle was starting Double Bogey Disc Golf in 2022, that's when I started like interfacing with the Parks Department, trying to get like the first course in the city. So I was really, I moved to New York, also experienced the disc golf desert. I had just moved to New York after a 1-year-long road trip around the country.
Wow.
Where I was kind of living out of a converted camper van, and I was using disc golf as a way to just like experience new places. Like when I was taking breaks from my long drives, disc golf courses were just such a common stop for me. So I can see, Josh, you mentioned you were from Idaho earlier. I went to some disc golf courses in Idaho, for example, when I was just passing through, or also
Let's go.
Iowa, or that's when I made it out to Emporia, because I was just kind of road tripping around. And then I sold the camper van, moved to New York City, and immediately felt this like absence of disc golf courses specifically. So from my background, felt like I kind of wanted to approach it from the angle of like advocacy and working with the Parks Department. So started interfacing with them through 2022. And then in the winter of 2023 is when I encountered the club, and I was like, no way, there's other disc golfers in the city. And that's really kind of what laid the foundation for us to join efforts and kind of formalizing the Disc Golf Association.
All right. So a couple of years ago, probably similar time frame, like 2021, maybe 2022, I was reaching out to the Parks Department and folks in Van Cortlandt Park about trying to get some baskets in the ground there. I reached out to the concessionaire that runs the golf course, and I was like, hey, like, you have a real business opportunity here. If you add a disc golf course and you sell greens fees, like what we've seen out in California, Glendevere, like you could probably make more money for this Muni course. It probably doesn't do that good. And I never heard back from them. The Parks Department was like, no, but you know, you could do like we'd be happy to permit you to do a pop-up course, you know, 9-hole little mini tournament. And I was like, cool, but like, I kind of let it slide because I was kind of getting a lot of no's, and so I just gave up. But you all have gotten through, and we have baskets and tee pads in the ground at Highland Park out in Brooklyn, Queens. I don't know whether it's considered Brooklyn or Queens to be. It's like right on the border, right?
Truly, if you look at it on a map, the border cuts the course in half.
That's awesome.
It's like right in both.
Is Jackie Robinson the dividing?
No,
picture? No. Okay.
It's not. It doesn't follow the highway directly. It just kind of like is a random north-south border during that section of the park. Yeah.
So how did you get them to start even considering this? You know, the challenge with New York City is that there's a million people at parks, and it's like hard to have a safe place to play disc golf. So where did you start, and how did you make progress?
Yeah, I think there were a couple things at play. One aspect of it was definitely just doing our due diligence and doing a lot of prep work. Ended up creating just like a really thorough proposal where I was scouting out different parks all across the city from a disc golf perspective, going there during weekends, going there during weekdays, identifying like areas of the parks that were lower utilization, really thinking through like, would this be a safe place for a disc golf course? Would there be enough space for a disc golf course? And what that yielded was essentially a short list of like prioritized areas of parks that would be good for a disc golf course. So when I was talking to the Parks Department, I was already coming in with sort of that first step of like picking what parks might be good, already completed, so that it wasn't necessarily like we were putting that on the Parks Department to go out to every single park they have in the city, because there's so many hundreds of them, and just like randomly choosing one. We were trying to kind of direct it to like, we've already done this work from a disc golfer perspective. Now from like the city approval perspective, which of these parks in our shortlist might be best for a disc golf course? So that proposal, we also utilized like a lot of data from UDisc, sharing with the Parks Department that there's a lot of demand for disc golf courses, or for disc golf generally, in the New York City metro area, but there's nothing in the city. And so that proposal definitely like garnered attention in our early meetings. But I will say the other aspect, in addition to like having just a lot of preparation ahead of time, the other aspect that really helped was just perseverance and follow through. I was actually, before this call, looking back at some of my emails, and there were times I was emailing with parks employees, and I wouldn't get a response for a month, and I was following up with them every single week, and I would just follow up, no response, follow up, no response, follow up, no response. And usually after about like the 5th week, I would finally get a response. They would pass me on to a new person, and then I'd be doing the same thing. And then eventually, after about 6 months, from like October of 2022 to April, I finally got passed to, you quote unquote, like the right person in the Parks Department. And I led a meeting with some executives in the Parks Department, the Chief Marketing and Development Officer, the Deputy Commissioner of the Parks Department.
Wow.
And that's when we got like a really good, well, I guess, watershed moment, because the Deputy Commissioner of New York City Parks used to be high up in Philadelphia parks, and he was instrumental in the installation of Sedgley Woods, which is a great urban course in Philadelphia. So finally, we got someone in the Parks Department that kind of knew that New York City should have this amenity. And so, yeah, just through like a lot of follow-ups and perseverance, we're finally able to like our voices finally fell on the right ears, I guess.
When did the Paul McBeth Foundation get involved, and what was their role in their involvement with the course? So
after those initial meetings with the Parks Department, where we started to get a little bit of traction, before the meeting with like the executives that I just mentioned, I had reached out to the Paul McBeth Foundation, essentially asking for if they had interest in supporting like a New York City course. They connected me. There's a couple other people who had also reached out to the Paul McBeth Foundation in New York City. they are all now members of the New York City Disc Golf Association. But it was around like April of 2022 that the Paul McBeth Foundation got pulled in, and they became just such an instrumental member in helping us to provide funding for the course and help with the logistics of like installation, which helped bring credibility to what we were sharing with the parks. Like, this is not some gigantic capital project that needs to go through like a budget review of $1 million. This is something that is a very reasonably priced installation. The full cost of it is being donated by the Paul McBeth Foundation, and we can install it in as little as 2 days. And that really helped bring a lot of credibility to the pitch. And then, so around April of 2023, I don't know if I said 2022 earlier, but around April is when they started joining in on meetings as well. And that we were interfacing a lot outside of the Parks Department to kind of help with sort of the proposal for where a course might go.
Is the city contributing financially at all, or is the whole cost being borne by the Paul McBeth Foundation?
The full cost is on the Paul McBeth Foundation. The course, though, is in a public park, so it's also designed to be in an area that's already being maintained by the park. So there's no new like maintenance costs where they have to start mowing new areas. It's all in an area of the park that is already in their like maintenance plan. So no new costs to the Parks Department.
So Hoyle, you told us we could call you by your last name. So tell us about the course. It's 10 holes. What can people expect if they decide they're going to come to New York City and they want to get out and get around in at the first ever course here in New York? What should they expect to see?
Of course, yeah. So the course was definitely designed with new players and beginners in mind, because we're introducing disc golf to communities who really have never heard of disc golf. I've heard bidders say it before, but it's like the opposite of Emporia, where if you're in Emporia, everyone has heard of disc golf, even if they don't play. But in New York City, no one's heard of disc golf, and you're really starting from ground zero. So we definitely wanted the course to be not too challenging, something that's super accessible for people who are just learning about the sport. So that's really what you could expect, is to come find some really well thought out holes that will challenge an experienced player, various shot shapes, really working on your upshot game. There's some elevation change, some really fun holes all throughout the course. I know we've already had a few aces on the course, which has been exciting for people to go out and nab. And one important thing about the course was accessibility. It's actually really close to the Broadway Junction stop, plus a 15-minute walk to the course from there. So it's something that anyone in the city can access. I know for you, Charlie, it would be 90 minutes to get there, but it would also just be $2.90 on the subway.
I'm going to get out there. No worries.
Yeah, definitely let us know, and we'll get around in. But in terms of the park itself, it's a lot of mature trees, very beautiful, just a very serene setting to be playing disc golf in. It's a busy park in some places in the park, but where the course is at, it's pretty not underutilized, but less utilized. And so it really just worked for disc golf, because you can throw a Frisbee and not worry about hitting 50 people all at once. So it's a great little course, and I think people are quickly falling in love with it.
Yeah.
How many members? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one other thing to add is the flow of the course also begins at the entrance of the park that's nearest to the subway stop and nearest to like the public transit access, rather than where the parking lot is. So when designing and when proposing courses to New York City, transit accessibility was one of the like key criteria. And Highland Park actually, based on how many, like what the catchment area is of the park from a transit perspective, how many millions of people can reach the park within 45 minutes on public transit, it was the top choice on our short list from a transit accessibility perspective. So we really wanted to make sure when designing it, the flow of the course started and ended where the public transit stop was nearest.
You guys talk about commute times, and like I won't drive across town that takes me 15 minutes sometimes. If like I just have one reason to go, I'll be like, oh, I'll wait until I have a couple reasons to go across town. It takes me 15 minutes to get to the other side of Pocatello. So very different experience. Hoyle, how many members do you have in the NYCDGA?
Yeah, so we officially have 52 paid members as of this morning.
Okay.
We measure, I guess, our engagement in a couple different ways. Our meetup group has 267 people in it. Our Discord has 190 people in it. So we know that we've reached, a good portion of disc golfers in New York City. We know there are a lot more here that we would like to engage with. But that's our current size is 52 official members.
And I assume you're going to start hosting things like weekly leagues and other events that are going to be able to promote membership in a way that, no, I'm sure putting league is great, but I think leagues are going to have an opportunity to create significantly more engagement.
Yep, we're going to have weekly leagues at Highland Park. We have a monthly glow round at Prospect Park. We're about to bring back our putting league. We have a community. We have monthly community days at Highland Park where we do trash pickups as well to just try to help maintain the park. And beyond that, we really want to continue to make sure that we're engaging all of New York City, because Highland Park is so far away from so many people that still live in the city that we want to make sure that we continue to have a presence in all 5 boroughs. So we're going to continue to have park meetups, Calvert Road Park in South Brooklyn, Ocean Breeze Park in Staten Island, probably at Van Cortlandt as well, just to make sure that we don't forget about anybody in the city. So lots of plans for events in the future.
You guys got to drop that Discord link for me. I'm going to get in there.
Oh, definitely. Please join.
This is just fantastic. I mean, so it basically took you, 2 years to get a course in the ground? More?
I think from first email sent to where we are now has been about 19 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What were some of the other parks you were considering? I'm just personally curious.
Yeah, so obviously there's...
because now we could get more, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. There are many places in the city that I think would host great disc golf courses, both public parks, also there's state parks in the city, and national parkland in Floyd Bennett Field, and even like some private land with high
Floyd Bennett
schools
Field,
in
there's
Staten Island.
So much empty, unused space out there.
Right, and we've been in conversation with them as well. So there will in the future definitely be other courses on the horizon, but some other parks that were kind of on our short list that would be good from a disc golfer perspective or a transit accessibility perspective. Casino Park in Queens, Marine Park in South Brooklyn, Calvert Vaux Park in South Brooklyn, Wolf's Pond and Ocean Breeze in Staten Island, Pelham Bay and Van Cortlandt in the Bronx. And then some state parks like Shirley Chisholm State Park, Roberto Clemente State Park. All of those were kind of on like our short list of other parks that could host a good disc golf course, whether that's 9 holes or 18 holes. Also Canarsie Park in South Brooklyn. Yeah.
I'm curious, like, have the folks from the New York City Parks Department said, hey, we're going to see how this goes, and if it goes really well and we're seeing like a lot of utilization, that we would be open to maybe even putting funding into future courses? Because I don't think you're going to be able to keep tapping Paul McBeth Foundation, and
right.
Honestly, you might be able to get manufacturers who want to put baskets in the ground to give you free baskets and maybe funding. But
right.
I'm curious from the park side, like, are they already showing that they have some openness to doing more courses in the future if it goes well in Highland?
Yeah, this has definitely been mentioned in conversation. There's been no like tangibleness to it yet, but the commissioner I mentioned earlier that was involved in Sedgley Woods in Philadelphia, his first piece of feedback to us when we proposed Highland Park is, what happens 1 month after this opens and it's too crowded? He was already thinking about needing more courses like before Highland Park was even designed. So there is certainly an awareness that more courses are needed. I think the idea is they do want to see how this goes, kind of from treating it as like a 1-year pilot. to see how it's utilized, to see how it is from a safety perspective before, I guess, proposing it as like a public capital program for like New York City parks. But I think the appetite is certainly there. I also agree with you that for like courses 2 and 3, we might have to lean on partners to help fund it because of the public process taking a long time. And another aspect of this is like in any community that we discuss putting a disc golf course in, there's also like a lot of community engagement efforts that we put in place. Like we don't want to just be going around the city and plopping a disc golf course in every park if that community doesn't want a disc golf course there, for example. So that's another discussion that has been happening with the Parks Department and with community boards surrounding parks. But yeah, I think the appetite is certainly there from the Parks Department, and kind of the vision that we see this going is it becomes one of the tools in the Parks Department's toolkit as like providing an amenity to the public parks, providing a new way for people to engage with the parks. So yeah, I see it definitely going in that direction.
The only thing I would add is we have made some headway with one of the municipal golf courses here in the city that's expressed some interest, and that's a little bit of a different thing because it's pay to play, and we'll see where that goes. I know that they're interested, but at this point they're talking to their legal department to make sure that they would be comfortable with disc golfers being around ball golfers and all that stuff. So more to come on that, but that's certainly another option here in the city.
Yeah, I mean, that just opens a door that wouldn't otherwise be open, which is you could put in a gold layout and really develop it from scratch and like get them to pay for it because they're going to get greens fees.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
DGPT stop in New York City.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
Let's go.
I can't wait.
Wow, this is just awesome. So your the grand opening is in about a month.
Yes.
What should folks expect if they're able to get out there on June 15th?
I think they should expect to have a ton of fun because we're going to have a lot of big names there from the disc golf industry, both professional disc golfers, people from the PDGA, Paul McBeth Foundation, of course, UDisc. We'll be doing some more organized events at the grand opening, like an ace race, a potential doubles with a professional, that sort of thing. And also there will just be a lot of like disc golfers there to kind of bring new people into the fold and help teach disc golf to more members of the local community. So it'll be some component of like ceremonial ribbon cutting and then a lot of just kind of fun organized events. See if you can beat Paul McBeth to getting an ace, that sort of thing. We're still hammering out all the details, but it's an event I'm really excited for, and I think it'll bring interest from a lot of the like local disc golf community.
It's truly devastating to me that I'm going to be out of town. So I will try to, well, first of all, I'm going to get all of my New York City disc golf buddies to go if they have the day, and we'll try to take some pictures. And guys, this is just fantastic. I mean, shout out to the hard work that had to go in. I don't know if people maybe fully appreciate how challenging it is to deal with a city this size and how hard it is to get a meeting with those kinds of people eventually. Like, I gave up. Right. But admittedly, I did none of the preparation and back end work that you all did. So shout out to you both for taking the initiative, and this is going to be a legacy course forever. I mean, I know the Westchester disc golf community, which is really strong, and I'm sure you guys have played up at FDR and Kisco. Mm-hmm. You know, I know they're super excited. This is just it's a watershed moment for disc golf in like the Northeast U.S. Like, there's just not that many giant cities that have courses. So congratulations and thanks for stopping by.
Yeah,
of course. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
So if you want to check it out, June 15th, the inaugural day, you can already play the course.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Josh Zukoff, my buddy, texted in our group chat and already gave us kind of the lowdown on it. And so you can go play it now, but you can also come out to the June 15th ribbon cutting ceremony. So Alex Hoyle, Alex Bender, thanks for being here. And I'll see you guys out on the course real soon.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Looking
Thanks,
forward to
Charlie.
it.
Thanks, Josh.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. Thanks again to the Alexes for joining us. Josh, it's just so cool. And to think that we've got somebody who has the experience of putting disc golf into Philadelphia at the highest level of New York City, like Parks Department decision making, is a really good sign for the potential future of disc golf in New York. With, I don't know, maybe we'll have 2 or 3 courses in New York City by the the end of the decade.
I mean, that would be incredible. And this is something that Andrew Fish once said when he was guest hosting with us. He said that it's always preferable on courses to just prioritize making the best amount of, like, the best holes with the space that you have. And so when they announce that it's a 10-hole course, I'm like, there it is. That's so smart, right? Don't try and cram 18 into a space that you don't have 18. Don't quit at 9 because you only have 9. Do an 11-hole course, do a 10-hole course, do a 13-hole course. Who cares, right? Put in the number of holes that you have that you can make quality disc golf holes out of. And I think that's such an important point and great use of that space. I'm very excited for this to take place. Very excited for you, Charlie. Excited for New York disc golf. And it's just, man, if you could get the kind of community and the volunteer group together, I'm sure that you could find a space that you could host a professional event on a temporary course. And those are the kind of events that I think are really going to continue to push professional disc golf forward as well.
It'll be pretty hype.
Yeah.
All right. It's time for some Inside the Circle. We got some good stuff this week. Josh, take it away.
So first up, most notable news, Kristen Tatar has posted on Instagram that she will be taking about a month off of playing disc golf. During home renovation projects, she broke a rib and is going to have to take time off. What a freak injury, and just so unfortunate.
Yeah, it sucks. I wonder if it's a little bit of a blessing in disguise, though, because having talked to her last week, she'd already dropped from some European events. Mm-hmm. Like, did she really want to fly all the way back to the U.S. for 2 tournaments and then fly all the way back? Like, obviously, you don't want to break your rib. I have not broken a rib. I've bruised a rib. That is so painful. It's so brutally painful. I don't think this has any material impact on Kristen's season.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
The only concern that you would have is that she just won't be practiced up enough for European Open. Because now she's not scheduled to play until July 12th. That's she basically is not going to play for 2 months.
It's a long time.
Assuming she plays Croco Open. Will she be ready to go for European?
I think she has a real benefit that it's still in Europe, not in the U.S.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's a very legitimate question. So, I think she's still a legitimate contender to win European Open. If she doesn't win European Open, though, I still don't think that means that she doesn't have a shot, isn't the odds-on favorite of winning Player of the Year.
And Worlds.
Exactly, right? This is not define the season to me.
All right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is a blip.
Yeah. We had a saga of another spotter gate, Charlie, in round 1 here at OTB. One of the guys who was swimming in the pond caught Madison Walker's disc as it was flying, and the broadcast lost it. People on the internet lost it. And Madison posted a response to that where she said that disc was going to a place where discs go to die, in the like the reeds over there on the right side, and that it had zero chance of ever going OB or coming back in bounds, and that she had joked to the spotter that if she pulls that shot to just catch it so she can get the disc back. Tells everyone to calm down, says that it's fine. I love the way Madison handled this. I understand the concern among the community because there have been legitimate problems with spotters causing interference with play that has affected tournaments. But Madison Walker is amazing, and I think she's just a great pro and such a good head on her shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, from a super technical level, I think we shouldn't have spotters catching discs out of the air, even if they are very 100% clearly going to go out of bounds, and they're going to just have to go try to dive into the sludge to find the disc. But the reaction here was as if the spotter had stolen a circle one, putt from her. I mean, what are you talking about? Why are people so reactive? Just relax. It's so stupid. Madison said to the spotter, if I shank, please just catch it. She basically said that.
She did.
And then everyone was like, oh my God, Madison Walker getting screwed by the spotter. You are clueless. Next topic.
Yeah.
I can't talk about it anymore.
Scott Stokely showed up at the Tech Disc booth again and decided to beat everybody else's records again. 80 miles an hour on a forehand for Tech Disc.
Dude's got a cannon, man.
Yes, he does.
That's awesome.
I didn't realize that he had that kind of speed on his forehand. I've seen some of his videos and he has a very effortless swing to his forehand, but I guess I've never seen him really try and yam on one. And man, that's fast. That's crazy.
That is.
Last Inside the Circle, Brody Smith has announced that he is going to be taking a break from the tour. Did it feel inevitable, Charlie?
Well, he's obviously been hinting at this all season.
Yeah.
The real question for me is, does he ever come back? And when I say that, I don't mean will he ever play another pro tour event, because I think that the answer is definitely yes to that. My question is whether he ever tours again. Is going to many events for a season.
Yeah.
I don't know if that the answer is obvious to me. I mean, I get the sense that Brody fans think that he's about to go into the lab and really grind and work to get it back and then come back out and start winning. It's not happening, folks. He just isn't good enough to be a tour champion. He's not. I think, could he become a competitive again and start cashing again? I mean, that's possible if he puts the time in, but where was this over the winter?
Right.
I have a hard time believing that he's going to do this when he clearly has more passion for just being a commentator, basically, and doing his podcast. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just think, why go on tour if you can just sit at home, still sell discs, and not have to grind at your age with your injury history?
I'm curious if he thinks that still being on tour is necessary for his brand. And
I think it clearly isn't. I mean, maybe longer run, it would be helpful, but I think, to me, this is just, none of it is surprising.
Yeah.
Brody has shown a tendency over his career to be a little hot and cold about the things that he's interested in. And perhaps we're seeing that with disc golf now. If you can't practice all off season because you don't have the passion for the game, I don't see why that's coming back to you now,
right,
that you're obviously struggling when you were already a borderline top, 40 guy in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. All right, that's
yeah,
it for
but
insights.
he's such a personality and so famous that like we talk about this, even though if somebody in a comparable spot announced that they were going to take time off from the tour, we might not even talk about it on the show.
Oh, yeah, we definitely wouldn't. But, what I'm curious about now, if he doesn't come back, does he pick a new passion project? Right? Or do you think that he has, between foundation and everything else that he does in disc golf, do you think this is like his kind of permanent business home now, even if he's not playing?
It's a good question.
That's where my big question mark is.
It's a good question. I think for a while he will be involved in disc golf, and maybe for the long run.
That's my question. Like after 5 years, will he still be involved in disc golf? That's
an excellent question.
That's my question.
I would not bet on that. Just again, looking at like the history of, and he's probably going to start a family. Like,
yeah,
it wouldn't be surprising for him to move on. Many do.
Yeah, absolutely. And
many great disc golfers,
and he's had
are not that involved anymore.
Right, and he's had a very successful career before disc golf, and
has
a very successful career in the business side of disc golf, and.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason if doesn't want to grind it. There's no reason he needs to grind it, right?
We got anything else?
No, I think that's it for Inside the Circle.
All right. Well, just touching up on our picks. Again, I had Calvin and Ella to win.
You really just wanted to hit this again, didn't you?
I blundered with the... Yeah, I did. Just want to give you the L one more time. I really blundered. Haley King didn't play this weekend. I swear to God, I checked.
I thought we checked. I saw someone harass you in the Discord.
So I think it was a late drop.
I think you're right as well.
But anyway, I obviously blundered not to have Holland in my top three. I almost certainly would have picked her had I not picked Haley.
Holland almost blundered away that podium. I thought I wasn't going to get any points.
I know, but she still did.
Yeah, you're
get
right.
on the podium.
You're right.
Josh gets 2 points, one for Gavin Rathbun, one for Holland Handley on his podiums. I get 6 for my winner picks. Do I get a bonus for picking both winners?
I don't think we have a bonus for that.
I don't think so. Only if you get a perfect podium. Anyway, you can follow along with all of our picks and make your own at discgolf.ultraworld.com/upshot-picks. And you got to be a subscriber to make your own picks. So that is this week's picks. No tournaments this weekend. No DGPT. Nothing in Europe, nothing in the U.S.
That's so nice.
Pursewatch. I lost the tab.
I got you, Charlie.
Go ahead.
Over Pursewatch and OTB for OTB Open. MPO payout was $72,594. FPO payout was $32,419 for a total purse of $105,013. That makes it the highest event on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, even beating out the DGPT Elite Plus event of Waco. The one note, though, in terms of the field size, it did have more players than Waco, so the cash per person came in a little bit less, but still at $633. Solid number. Calvin took home a great payout, $13,000. Ella took home a great payout, $7,000. Their 2023 purse was $100,000, as we talked about on the Sean's episode. That is a 5% increase. And honestly, for the tournaments that already were at like a good, healthy purse, I think 5% is a very healthy, ideal growth number.
Yeah. That's higher than the increase from Jonesboro and Music City and chess.com.
Yep.
Chess.com was compared to LVC.
Right. Waco and
maybe not fair.
Open at Austin were in double digits, but they absolutely needed to be in order to stay relevant.
Right.
So
they were two of the lowest payouts a year ago.
Exactly. So all in all, good tournament. It's a good tournament.
Good tournament. Okay, last thing before we close it out.
Yep.
Are you more or less excited for Champions Cup to be here after watching this weekend?
If the broadcast addresses some of the issues that I feel exist for these kind of courses, I guess I am more excited than I was at the previous announcement. And but my hesitation still remains around the coverage and the broadcast of it, and can they do a good job of really highlighting the level of golf that's played. But I am excited. I am excited for a West Coast major. Like, I think the Seans are right about that. I'm very excited to have it on the West Coast. And they put on a great show. So,
all right. That is going to do it for this edition of The Upshot. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back with you on Thursday. Send in your thoughts. We may take a little mail this Thursday. Upshot@ultiworld.com. We've been getting some good letters over the weekend. We'll be back with you Thursday. And for Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you then right here on The Upshot.